Shell's downstream business turns crude oil into a wide range of products, including lubricants, commercial fuel, and chemicals. Shell has an ambitious and global transformation program called Shell Downstream, or Downstream-One, which has introduced standard business practices and processes and a common IT infrastructure to some 29 countries. The goal is to improve business performance by creating a sustainable platform for operational excellence. Our speaker is Christophe Boulanger, General Manager of Customer Excellence and the Downstream-One program. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Boulanger. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, good afternoon. Welcome back from lunch. I'm going to talk to you about the transformation of Shell Downstream over the last, 6 years to, in search for operational excellence. What I'll do, I'll give you a bit of a context about Shell or downstream business and where we're coming from and why we're doing this change. Then talk about the program, how we're running it, and what's it delivering, where we are today with it, and then a look both ahead in terms of what's coming next and also look backwards at what have we learned from it. And hopefully you will recognize some of those lessons. You're probably all familiar with Shell. I don't need to say a lot about our company, but basically we are two businesses. One is upstream, which is finding oil and gas and taking it out of the ground. The second part is downstream, which is taking those products, transforming them into products that you buy, fuels, lubricants, chemicals, and distribute them. So this story is about the downstream part of the business. Our share price is driven by upstream, but most of our employees are downstream. That gives you an idea of where we are. It's a business that's present in many parts of the world. The scale is big, and you can read numbers there. But there's one thing I'd like to draw your attention to. It's a large business by revenue, probably one of the largest in the world, just the downstream part of Shell. And if you look at our bottom line, it's less than 2% of that headline number. And if you look at our level of transaction, we issue over 1 million invoices every month, usually for quite multiple orders. So it's a business that has large scale, that has low margin, and where the high level of transaction means that in order to be competitive in that business, you need to be good at managing your processes. You need to be good at delivering consistently to a cost-effective standard. Now, Shell has been quite a successful company over the last century, and if you reflect on where we're coming from and how we've become successful, it will highlight why we needed to do this. Because Shell has been created initially out of Dutch and English companies doing business mostly in Asia, at a time when you had no phone, no email. So the way it worked is somebody was sent with a broad mandate to operate on behalf of the company. So as long as you met your plan and you met the brand and standard and ethics values of the company, you could basically organize your business pretty much the way you wanted. And so we created over a generation a culture where people had an enormous amount of autonomy locally, and as long as they delivered, they actually were successful. So we attracted people who liked that. We attract people who were successful in being autonomous, a high level of individual creativity, and that's who we are. Now, imagine that. We did that until the mid-90s. Across 100 and some companies, some countries in the world, everybody creating the new solution locally, everybody being very good at being close to the customers, and then you end up having 150 ways of doing the same thing in the world. And you end up having developed so many different offers, so many different approaches to doing things that you've become incredibly inefficient at transferring good practice from one place to another, and you've become very expensive. And when customers start to say, well, can you give me an offer above those across 20 countries, you actually cannot offer the same thing everywhere. So that's where we were in the mid-90s. That was recognized, and the transformation started progressively to move away from a country-based organization to first one where we we split the businesses, so downstream or oil products and chemicals became businesses organized by region. And then the first business that really went global was aviation, because our customers, British Airways or Lufthansa wanted to deal with us in many countries, so you had to create the infrastructure to deliver to them. And then in 2003, we acquired Pennzoil, which is a big independent lubricants company in the US, and we didn't have a business to integrate them with, so we took the decision to go to a global organization with our lubricants business. I had the chance of being part of the team that put that global organization together, and we learned enormously about the power we could get out of doing that. And so a year later, Rob Rhodes, who was the director of Downstream, took the decision to take the same journey with the entire organization. And this is when he launched the Globalization of Downstream, what the strategic framework that Rob puts to us, which I've seen for the following 5 years in every presentation from every senior manager in Shell. And this is really what the intent was to do with that new organization, being a lot better at delivering consistently to customers around the world and being cheaper at doing it. And then you can see on the left the different elements, if you want, of delivering on that objective. You see that it is heavily slanted towards operational excellence. If I look at our current strategic framework here, you see that there's a strong element of growth in it. It was well understood when we had the first one that we had to fix our structures and our business and operational delivery first, so we could then embark on further growth after that. Now, having changed all the reporting line, making it a global organization, having a clear strategic statement about what we want does not make it a global business. It doesn't make it an organization that delivers every day consistently to customers around the world to the same standard. So at the same time as he launched this, Rob Rhodes also took a decision to launch a program to drive and deliver that change. And that program is Downstream-One, which I'm leading today, but has been set up 6 years ago. What did it cover? The first thing that comes in the scope is business model. We first took a very hard look at what we were doing around the world and looked at all the different ways we were doing businesses and took the hard decision about what did we want to do with which customers in what part of the world. So, for instance, we were distributing heating oil to millions of individual households in the world. We decided we didn't want to be in that business, and so on. I can give you lots of examples like that where we took the decision about this is what we want to do, this is what we do not want to do. On that basis, then, the program was set in motion to put, one, the processes to support those business models, two, the systems to hardwire those processes, and the decision was made early on to migrate the whole of Shell Downstream into a single IT platform to hardwire all of the processes designed to support those business models, and then the organization that would operate those processes. So the decision was also made early on that we wanted the organization to be the same around the world, so that you could actually really develop professionalism, you could develop the expertise, you could transfer learnings from one place of the organization to the next one. So that's what this program was intended to address and deliver. Now, I'll give you a few examples here of the sort of simplification just to illustrate, because it could be. In a retail business, so retail is retail stations where you go and fill up, we had 152 types of relationship between Shell companies and the retailers. Who owns the stock, who operates what, and so on. We now have 4. Now we have a menu, and if you're in a given geography, you can have 1 or 2 possible ways of doing it. We had over 1 million commercial customers. We now have about 30,000. Gives you an idea. And so on. You can look at the other ones. We had about 150 different IT platforms with 6,000 connected applications to it. We are on a journey to go to 1, and so on. Yeah. Now, let me take a glass of water. This picture probably looks awfully complicated to you, and I'm trying to make some sense of it. This is what we call the plan on the page for a journey. What it is how we've got about to implement that program. each of those bars is a cluster of country, a cluster of country. And you can see that the length of those bars is 2.5 years, roughly. So we started implementing the program by country, clusters of country, and we took a group of business through 2 years of aligning the business to the globe, to the business models, and starting to put in place the change in organization, in processes, in systems, and so on. There's a few things to take from that. The initial intention was to do 3 countries as Pathfinder, to develop the IT solutions, to develop the processes and all of that, and then take a bit of a pause, reflect on it, adapt, and then roll out to the rest of the world. Well, when we reached the end of the 3 Pathfinder, we probably had developed about 60% of the solution, not 100%. The focus on the first 3 was really to make the systems and the processes work. So by the time we had done the first 3, the program had taken quite a heavy IT focus, if you want, because that's where the challenges was initially. And then when we started rolling out the program, one of the very few places where we started rolling it out was a group of countries where we were very, very far away from a target business model. We probably had every exception in the book. We had the leadership team that was scattered in different places, and we had a group of leaders in charge of that business where, with hindsight, we probably did not have the sort of capabilities that was required to drive a change of this magnitude. So there we went, and because there was a big program with pressure to deliver on time and a big IT machine behind it, we postponed a bit and we started going live with that business. And we pretty much brought that business down to its knees. It took us a year to bring it back to normal after that. Primarily because we had driven the systems and IT implementation on a business that never really bought into the value of the change for them as a business, and in a leadership that effectively had this change done to them. And so I joined the program a few months before this disaster happened. My job was to actually integrate the business transformation specifically of the program at that time. And Bob Kaplan was talking about the cost of training senior leadership. I can tell you, we got a very expensive training program here at that time. But with hindsight, I mean, you look at it, that was probably money well spent. I shouldn't say that to the people who went through the horrible year. But it brought home a few very hard messages, and it made the rest of the journey incredibly better. So what did we do to change from that? The first one is we re-emphasized the role of leadership and really thought through how do we make sure we bring the right people on board, how do we make sure we equip them to lead the journey. We brought a lot more structure and discipline around the integration of the business change, the business agendas, because each business or function were running their changes, but how those changes were fitting together or not, where most of the issues happened was at the interface. And then the third thing we did only a few months later, after we had proven that the new method works, is we migrated all of the responsibility to the local business. So we used to have quite a heavy central program who would come and roll it out, and we then completely got away with that and make the local business entirely accountable for the whole journey. So that was in, early 2008, I think? And since then, every 3-6 months, we've rolled out countries. Everyone has been generally better than the next one. There's a couple of other lessons from this page. You see that it spans over 7 years, I think. Rob Rhodes, who initiated that in 2005, left the company in 2009 into early retirement, happy retirement, sorry, not early. We then had a new generation of leaders. If you think about the time of this, it's about 8 years. It's about twice the average tenure of senior managers in the company. And we basically had a full rotation, new generation of leaders at all levels through the journey. And so we had to re-onboard and re-energize the company several times to deliver on that. And then the other thing is, in 2009, when the crunch came, and like all of you, we had a lot of pressure on our cost management, we actually kept going, because we believed that this was a critical program to drive the sustainable profitability of the company. Just to add a bit to the magnitude of what we're trying to do here, at the same time as we were doing that, we offshored a lot of our functions, so HR, IT, customer service, a lot of financial operations migrate to offshore centers that you can see here. And just to illustrate what it means in the way we operate today, so if you are a retail customer in Germany, your sales rep will sit in Hamburg, the person you talk to in the company will sit in Hamburg. When you place your orders, if it's a fuels order, it's going to be done by the probes in your site system that sends the order directly. You never see it. And if it's lubricants, you go on the web and you put your order on the web. The customer service sits in Poland, in Krakow. The invoicing is handled in Manila, and then the reporting on the results come out of Chennai. So we've moved from a world where we had enormous local autonomy, where all the people doing these jobs sat in the same office in Hamburg, and if something didn't work the way they wanted, they would go up one floor and talk to Hans and come back and address it, to a world where we've simplified and made our processes more automated, but the people who handle it don't see one another and are in different parts of the world. Yeah. Now, I'm just taking an example here of one country that's gone live recently. So this is not the last one, but the second to last of the countries that have gone through the change. Why did I pick this one? Because Turkey has been one of our most successful businesses in the last few years. So before we started this journey with Turkey, they had gone through basically a tripling of income over the previous 2 years, 2 to 3 years. They were voted the most admired company in Turkey, and they had the highest employee rating of any company in downstream. So the first reaction of the leadership in Turkey where we came was, we're doing very much, thank you very much, we don't need you. So it took quite a while to actually get them on the idea that indeed this was good for them in the long term. Interestingly, by the time we finished the journey, this was the country and the leadership that was the most vocal about why it was the right thing to do. Because the leadership saw that this was bringing them the platform they needed to actually drive the next phase of growth of the company. So we can see a number of things we've delivered in there. I mean, the cost has come down. Mostly the supply chain has improved significantly. Our ability to serve customers consistently has improved quite a lot. Right. Now, you would think that it's all wonderful where we are today. It's probably a mixed picture. First of all, we've taken the whole downstream organization into probably the most traumatic change that our organization has ever gone through. We took people who were proud to be independent, creative, autonomous to a journey of doing the same thing everywhere in the world per a very scripted global way of doing it. We've migrated a significant part of the jobs offshore, and we've changed probably everybody's job in the organization. What did the business result do in parallel? So this is from our last presentation to analysts. The numbers are from retail, because we don't publish segmented results within downstream, but the picture is pretty much the same in lubricants or in the commercial fuels. So through that period of change, we grew a business steadily, consistently every year. And we took about 3 billion out of cost, 3 billion cost out of cost base over the same period of time. So in that sense, this was still is a very successful journey. But that's only one part of what we were trying to achieve. If you remember what the intention was to make Shell a company that delivered consistently to customers globally, at a very high level of service. Where are we today on that? It's probably more of a mixed picture. We've simplified, standardized our processes, which means that we've probably standardized more than we have simplified. So the intention was to eliminate, simplify, standardize, automate. The reality is, when you go around and hit country after country, you standardize and you automate a lot, but do you really simplify and do you really eliminate as much as you would like? So we are in a position now where we understand our operational performance. I'll talk a little bit more about that much better than we ever did before. So we have much better visibility data about our performance, but we are not yet at the position where we believe that we are the best in industry at delivering against it. Over the last year, now that we have that platform in place, the downstream strategy has been reviewed to actually add a significant growth element to it. At the same time, we're reaching now a stage in the program where we've pretty much finished the implementation with the rollout of it, and we're looking at how to better utilize the platform, the human capabilities, the system we've put in place to help the company drive that operational excellence agenda. And one thing where we've put a lot of effort over the last couple of years is managing our process performance. We always had scorecards in the company since I've joined at all levels to drive financial and non-financial KPIs through the organization. What we didn't really have before was a real operational understanding of our performance. So we typically were managing on margins, volumes, you name it, and other non-financials. What we have now that we have all our systems, all our processes embedded in the system is we can really measure the quality of our process performance, therefore our service to customer. So if I take an example about customers, what we're trying to do is deliver better customer service, which is, it's quite simple. Customer wants to place an order easily. They want the product to arrive in full when they've ordered it, or when they want an invoice to be right, and they want their queries or their complaints to be handled simply, effectively. So those measures, those 4 measures, are now in those dashboards. And you can look at, if I look at our invoicing, for instance, we have an objective of 99.5 invoice accuracy across the world. We can see that at the global level. You can bring that down to every salesperson, every customer locally, and you can follow on a daily basis whenever we have an invoice wrong, what the root cause was and how that drives back to the contribution to driving customer satisfaction. Now, the framework, the measurement itself doesn't give you the delivery, but if you combine that with the right governance, because managing processes across functional lines require quite a specific governance to make it happen, you can read the rest. But there's a few things that have made a big difference. One is visibility. We publish data, and we publish data with, I'll show you one later. So this is a part of a monthly report on, this one is invoice accuracy. There's a few things you'll notice. One, there's a name on top of it. So there's an individual who's got that accountability, and his results get published with his name on it. 2, there's not just the performance, but you also have a league table of all the countries or businesses in the world, and that's widely published. And if you go to the system, you can access that, the same thing at all levels. So everybody in the organization sees the performance across the world of the different businesses in each of those dimensions. And then the linkage between that and what we're doing in terms of improvement is also established. Right. Now, let me pause a bit and reflect on some of the things we've gone through in this journey. I think we're 90% down in rolling it out. We're probably halfway in achieving the value out of that. And in my mind, the real work, the harder work is starting now. We always believe that there's a lot more opportunities once you have the system in place. That's an opportunity that we knew when we started. We didn't know what it was. So we've always thought that we will only discover when we have all the systems in place the real potential of having the tools, in which we're starting to see that today. But I want to reflect a bit on the learnings from the journey to get there. The first one is when you go through such a massive change of systems, organization, who does what where in the world, the danger to actually to take the attention away from what you're doing to the customers and to get the organization really internally focused is important. And we saw that in the early part of the journey. And therefore, the importance of making sure that continuously, one, you remind people of why we're doing this and the external value of doing this, and 2, that you take your customers with you, because the changes we're bringing, at the end of the day, add value and allow us to get a much better service to our customers, but you go through a period of change where you need to count on the patients to come with you through the journey. The second one, because the IT change was so significant, we let it take over versus the business transformation in the early part of the journey. And then we had to steer the journey back to really be a business change, a business journey that was delivering ultimately a better customer experience and a better competitiveness for the organization. It sounds straightforward, everybody would agree with that. When you have 3,000 people working full-time around the world on driving a system implementation, it's very easy to slip. As I was saying earlier, we had the IT was driven centrally. The business change were each of the businesses with a light touch coordination. We found out that the importance of program managing business change and including the soft change, the change in the people's roles, a lot of the leadership elements actually required the same discipline program management that we've applied to the harder part of the program. And that's something I can talk at length outside of this if you want about all the experience we've had in that space. Visibly common leadership at all levels. It was very clear from Rod Rhodes when he set this up that this is something he wanted. There was no doubt that the boss was 100% behind it. It was not always clear that the level below was all 100% behind it. That evolved. But when we start hitting the places where it matters, you had to bring every new country team on board to the same journey. If I look at it now, having gone through 80% of the organization, I find that the people who've done it at the local level are the biggest converts, the biggest advocates, as is the very senior management. It's the layer in between that has remained a little bit on the side of the change. That's one thing. The second thing is, also having seen countries after countries go through it, what I've seen in terms of management behavior at the start of a journey versus how they behave at the end, it is an incredible program of management training. And I should say about leadership training. It really has brought people to a level of discipline, delivery, and to integrating the way they work and leading the people through change like no program I've seen in the company, and definitely no training will ever give you. We started this journey because we were too complicated, too complex, too intellectual. We want to be a lot simpler. We are a lot simpler. We are not as simple as we embark to be. And I think there's a long way to go still to bring what we have put in place to the level of simplicity that we want in how we're doing things and in what we do. And that's probably the biggest challenge now on the way forward. And then lastly, we started this journey with a company DNA where creativity and local autonomy was why people enjoyed working for this company. I mean, the intellectual case for doing this work was quite strong, and I think people believed in it. But the heart of people who were enjoying their local autonomous job took a lot harder time to get into this journey. And we have had a significantly higher turnover of senior management over the last 3 years than we had over the 20 years before that. And it's not surprising. And we are recruiting different people today. Looking forward, if you take an organization like that through such a programmatic change, in order to make the super tanker move, you have to take it quite hard on that journey. And we've probably consciously, but up to a point, we've probably pushed the pendulum too far. So we've taken people who used to have total autonomy about what they were doing every day. We've pushed them to really be working in a world where you are contributing to a global way of working, but that's the only way you can do it. And you end up at the extreme, you end up having people saying, well, if that's the only way I can work, that's it. So my impact on what I can do every day to improve my job is limited. And you have a risk of disempowering people. We've embarked over the last year on a strong push to continuous improvement based on lean, and the primary purpose of that, of course, is to improve the business, but it really is to re-equip local managers and employees at the front line to actually take better control over how they can improve their own working environment, to actually to bring that pendulum back into a place where, yes, you benefit from having global ways of working, you benefit from being able to share the learnings and be more efficient, but you also harness the the power, the creativity of the people everywhere in the organization. So that's how we see the way forward. Thank you, and I'll take questions. And actually, I have two of my colleagues in the room. Doug there, who's the finance controller for Downstream, and Gary at the back, who's Operational Excellence for Supply and Distribution Organization. And if the questions are too difficult, I'll try and point them to them.
Christophe, thank you very much. I have a question for you. You know, Shell is a company that many would argue almost invented strategic planning, going way back many years ago. Long-term strategic planning. I think of Rita Hoos and the Living Company and folks like that who did strat planning years ago. I wondered if you could say a little bit about your themes around customer, markets, process, sort of the themes of consistent offer, focus, and growth for customers, selected and concentrated footprint in markets, and how those strategic objectives get translated into measures and metrics. Is there a direct connection translating those strategic objectives into action? Do you use a map to do that, a scorecard or a KPI chart of some type?
Well, yes, absolutely. So we do, first of all, we do have a scorecard at group level and at downstream level that are both financial and non-financial, so those elements are in there. If you go back to the strategic map that I was showing at the start of the journey, which is about portfolio, so clearly pulling ourselves out of a lot of markets or operating indirectly in those markets. The process element about driving better customer satisfaction, essentially, and the cost part, those are followed through this whole journey. What has really changed with this journey is that a lot of those measures used to be based on people reporting. So you had customer satisfaction or how you deliver on time, or to take the same examples. We used to rely on hundreds of people in the organization basically sending back their performance reports, spreadsheets put together. Now a lot of that is built in our systems. And so it's actually changed quite a lot, the relationship of that people have with that, because it's much more transparently available across the organization. The linkage between, so I'm a customer service manager in a center in Manila, and I'm running a team that handles invoicing. The linkage between what my team is doing in terms of performance that I'm measured on every day, and how does that link to the card has become a lot stronger, because the measures are actually hardwired together.
So you line of sight back up.
Completely. Yeah. Completely. So I can take a measure at the downstream level, and I can go down all the way to a team leader or a sales rep in a country and follow the same measures.
Thank you. Other questions? If not, Christophe Boulanger, thank you very much.